This is the Sony 16-25mm f2.8G zoom lens. It's the companion lens to the 24-50mm I covered in February, and is an excellent option for someone looking for a compact, wide-angle zoom. Let's get undone.
Gerald Undone. He's crazy.
What's happening, everybody? I'm Gerald Undone, and this has never happened before. As usual, some disclosure. Sony lent me this lens to make this review. I don't get to keep it, no money changed hands, and Sony does not get any input on this video's production or get to preview before it's posted. This video does have an actual sponsor though, and that's Storyblocks. Like I said in the intro, this lens is nearly identical in size to the 24-50. It's actually a hair lighter at 409 grams, or a bit under a pound, but it has all the same features and carries the same 67mm front filter diameter. According to MTF charts, it's a bit better than the original 16-35mm G Master, but a bit worse than the 16-35mm G Master Mark II. But just like the 24-50, it's half the price of those longer G Masters, so if you're fine with only zooming to 25mm, you can save over $1,000. It features a focus ring, a zoom ring, and an aperture ring that can be declicked. It has an AF/MF switch and a function button. It does not have an aperture lock switch though, and it's not an internal zoom, with the barrel extending at 16mm and retracting at 25mm. But that extension is minimal. I'd estimate it only comes up about a centimeter, so less than half an inch. It's dust and moisture resistant and has two linear focus motors for fast, quiet, low vibration autofocus that Sony has rated to be speedy enough to keep up with the 120 frames per second burst mode of the A9 III. And for manual focus, the response is linear and has roughly a 140-degree focus throw. Now, I have a bunch of test images to show you in Lightroom, but before that, let me tell you about the sponsor of today's video, Storyblocks. If you're not familiar, Storyblocks is a stock media platform that offers unlimited downloads of diverse and high-quality content for one predictable subscription cost. No more expensive pay-per-click pricing, just pick a plan, pay that fee, and that's it. And you'll enjoy a library of over 1 million HD and 4K video files, images, and motion graphics templates. And speaking of those graphics, Storyblocks has expanded their library beyond just Premiere Pro and After Effects, and now includes customizable DaVinci Resolve templates for motion graphics and animated sequences, an essential tool for creating professional-looking videos at scale. And it's always easy to find what you're looking for in Storyblocks because the platform is very intuitive, and new content is commissioned frequently to ensure you'll have fresh assets to satisfy your project. And on top of all that, Storyblocks has a special offer just for my audience. For a limited time, you'll get 3 additional months free if you sign up with an annual individual license plan. Just go to storyblocks.com/undone to take advantage of this exclusive offer, only available until the end of May 2024. The offer won't appear at checkout, but rest assured, it'll be automatically added to your account shortly after you sign up. Thanks for listening. Now let's get into Lightroom. Okay, let's start off here with some Chromatic Aberration. Now, you should know a couple things. One, all of these images were shot using the Alpha 1. Now, I don't have the latest firmware that gives you focus breathing compensation, which means when we talk about focus breathing, it's not enabled. And none of the lens corrections are enabled for the shots here. But keep in mind, things like vignetting and distortion will likely be corrected with lens profiles, and so they're not that big of a deal. But this one, longitudinal chromatic aberration, is something that isn't corrected, and we need to make sure the lens doesn't have that. This is the chromatic aberration that occurs when you go sort of out of focus into the background and the foreground, usually adding something like a green magenta or like an amber blue. If we zoom in right here and we take a look, this cut matte is generally black and white, and we can see that it's perfectly black and white to my eye anyway. If we move up this way, we're not seeing any fringing, and if we come down here, I'm still not seeing any fringing. And this one is at 25mm, but it's the same thing at 16mm. Really excellent control of LOCA, longitudinal chromatic aberration. Now let's look at the Bokeh, and on this lens there's an 11-bladed iris, and this one is 25mm at f2.8. And if we look in the corner, there is some cat's eye going on, a little bit of fringing. I don't think that we're going to see pretty tremendous results here. Obviously, you know, they're kind of busy in the frame. There's a membrane. This is a 16-25mm f2.8 zoom. It is not a bokeh lens by any means. But if we switch over to 16mm, you can see there's also some cutting in that happens in the corner in addition to the cat's eye. And in order to get rid of that, I had to stop down to f7.1, but we still have some serious oblong shapes going on here. And now we can obviously see the 11 blades of the iris. On the 25mm side of the lens, I only had to stop down to 5.6, but we still have that oblong stuff in the corner. And overall, it's just like, they're okay. You know, it's not great, but what are you expecting on a wide angle zoom? And then I wanted to include a few like specular highlights for the bokeh so we could see what it would look like if they were in your foreground and all glistening. And this is what they look like. Yeah, like again, nothing phenomenal. It's okay. They look okay. They don't take away from it too much, but they don't really add much either. Now let's talk about close focusing. The minimum focus distance on this lens is actually pretty incredible considering the type of lens that it is. On the 16mm end, you can focus as close as 18 centimeters, which is about 7 inches. And then on the 25mm end, you get to 24 centimeters or 9.5 inches, which creates reproductions that look like this. This is the 25mm reproduction, and then this is the 16. So you actually get a little bit closer at the 16 end, but both of them are still really, really, really sharp in the center, even at their minimum focus distance. You don't get any weird aberrations that, limit that. I mean, that's really sharp. That looks great. Let's talk briefly about vignetting. This is the 25mm, not too bad at all. On 16mm, we definitely are seeing some peripheral illumination issues in the corner. And then if we stop down to 5.6, you can see them kind of clean up a little bit. But like I said, I wouldn't worry about this too much. Normally, this kind of stuff is dealt with by the profiles, and they're already in the Sony body. Sony shoot video, they're corrected as well. Flare. Flare's bad. This is probably the main weakness with this lens. You want to put a hood on if you're going to be, shooting toward the sun or whatever. You can see serious artifacts throughout the frame, and also sort of a major halo that affects contrast significantly. If you look here, this is without the sun creeping in, so you can see what the blacks look like. And then when the flare hits it, you can see how they kind of get contaminated and, how many artifacts and ghosting and whatnot there is. So flare is not great. Sunstars. If you're into Sunstars, they're pretty good on this lens. You can see you get like really nice little spikes sticking out. I don't know what people like about Sunstars, but look at it. Look at it go. Great stuff. Talk a little bit about distortion. This is at 25mm. You can see the distortion's not too bad, but then at 16mm, we're getting serious barrel distortion, which usually happens with these compact zooms. And again, from my experience, the profiles help quite a bit. But if you are put off by this with no profiles, this is what it looks like, uncorrected. And then I have a shot here that shows both focus transitions, both like the very small focus transitions that occur with close focusing, and then also more gradually through the frame. So if we get up close here, we can see, again, you get pretty incredible detail on that sort of razor thin line of focus. And you can see how it transitions when you're in that close focus to foreground and background. But then if we take a wider view, we can also see how it transitions all the way across the frame into the sky. There's some objects here and there. I think it's quite smooth. I think it's pleasing and looks good. And then this shot shows us a few things. It shows us what the lateral chromatic aberration is like, what it's like shooting into the sun that's not on funny angles, and again, another little bit of detail and contrast here. So this works. You can shoot in the sun this way, and we don't get much in the way of lateral chromatic aberration at all. I thought over here it was going to be just brutal, because I've seen the Sigma and the Tamron of this similar zoom type, and they have really bad lateral chromatic aberration. And again, there's no fringing correction on. This is just right out of camera. And it looks great. Like, I'm barely seeing anything along here. And we're still maintaining really good detail as well where I focused. So I was pleased with that. The detail overall in this lens is incredible. Look at this shot. If we punch way in here, like, look how far away that was. And this is on the, I think this is around 22mm. This is right in the middle of the focal length. And if we punch in here, like, that is really, really good. Great contrast. Really, really nice edges. You can see the little hairs here. Really, really good detail. I'm super impressed. And I also love the color. This is really punchy. There's nothing on this image, no contrast, nothing. And it just looked like this right out of camera. And I was shooting raw on the Alpha 1. It looks great. Now, I do have a couple sort of corner sharpness things to talk about here. We can look at it with the fence shot. This is sharpness in the center. And if we go to the edges, you can see it actually performs really well. It's not until you get right to the edge that it starts to fall off. And it's the same in both corners. I also took a shot of some rocks here so we can see what the detail looks like as we go out toward the edges. And again, really, really good performance all the way to the edge. I am noticing a little bit of softness here. And if you look up in the top left corner, we're looking at this portion of the frame. So that's really, really strong performance. And if we switch to the 16mm, it's not that much worse. 25, 16, both really good. I would say this is one of the more impressive on the wide end at 16mm for a lens like this that I've seen in a really long time. This is great. This is really, really good edge-to-edge sharpness. Now, like I mentioned, there are some similar lenses from Tamron and Sigma. The Tamron doesn't perform nearly as well in the corner sharpness or chromatic aberration. The Sigma does a bit better, but still isn't as sharp anywhere in the frame and has significantly worse close focusing distance. And neither the Sigma or the Tamron have an aperture ring or even a focus switch. The Sony also beats them in the focus breathing department, which is almost non-existent on this new lens. Here's a clip of me racking from minimum to infinity on a camera with no focus breathing compensation to show you just how well controlled the breathing is on this lens. Now, the Sony lens will cost you about 20% more than those Sigma and Tamron lenses, so it'll be up to you to decide if that price is worth the performance improvement. In my opinion, it is. If it was double the price, I'd have some pause, but for $200 to $300 more, I just get the Sony and have no compromises. Overall, this is a terrific lens with very few shortcomings, and it's especially impressive when you consider how small and compact it is. Good job. Yeah, all right. I'm done.